Because in the beginning, let me even before selling, I was able to finance everything myself till already from 78 till 93. 18 years, it was long. And how could I do this? Because we were leading and we were selling always our intellectual property with OEM deals. And most people were real afraid, my salespeople were afraid from that, because you sell everything you have to your competitor. But I had there, my vision was there on that moment, the dream moved in vision, that I learned that you evangelize and then your competitor is following you.
Hello, my name is Frits Busmarker, one of the hosts, and welcome to another edition of The Brand Called You, a video and podcast show which brings you the experience and wisdom of hundreds of people around the world. Today, it is my honor and privilege to welcome Jan Baan of the Netherlands. Jan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks to invite me, Frits.
Yeah. And now, let me introduce Jan Baan. He's recognized as an international IT entrepreneur, a true captain of industry. He was the founder of Baan Company, in its heyday only second to SAP, and played a key role in creating a worldwide market for enterprise resource planning. He later founded the Cordys company, a company providing business process management software, and is a venture capitalist, including investing in WebEx. And possibly, he's also the first major software products company to do software development in India through outsourcing, which began in 1987. So, Jan, welcome to the show. And let me start off. You started as an IT entrepreneur in 1978, well before the internet and IT became popular. How did you start in information technology?
It happens by accident. It's not hindered by a vision and by experience. I worked as an employee those days, and in financial, being a controller in a company, and also responsible for an IBM small implementation for a wholesale package. Now, and that was one of the elements. Later on, I came a little frustrated, and I took the risk, started my own business without vision. Now, and an important element, I should say, what happens in life that seems always is elements. It was my visit to Durango. It was in 1982. I was one of the first ones working not with Apple, but with a multitasking, multi-user microcomputer, 8-bit 64K, on the edge of technology. And it was already multitasking. Now, and then we were successful in the Netherlands, and I visited this company, this factory in 82. And they give me a red carpet treatment because we are small, but still already one of their few representatives in Europe. And there I learned that they moved from proprietary to Unix. Now, and immediately I changed. And I learned so much there is what means Unix, what means open. It means microtechnology, other than the IBM PC or Apple. They were all, even Intel, but proprietary. Now we moved to Unix. Now, and I think that was one of the most important elements. And then from that moment, I learned that when we moved to Unix, the productivity of my developers reduced tremendous by C, etc. And we built the first converter. We built the famous Baan shell. Now, all those, I will come back later on, I think a little on this Baan shell, but all those elements have given me a starting point without legacy and starting with disruptive technology.
Okay, Jan, you said just now, I don't have a vision, but still you said once, dreaming is part of being an entrepreneur. So what was one of your dreams? And I know you were triggered to go to India well before the internet was born in 1989. So was that one of your dreams?
Earlier, dreams came later. Because first, to have a dream, you need the components, and if you're naive, you need nothing. Now, I learned some things that was by accident executing. Then I came in India. It was not planned. I was invited by those days by when Deetman was Ministry of Education in the Parliament, and it was the first Dutch-Indian business trip. And I was invited, and okay, as an entrepreneur, you have time, and it's fun, and it's always nice, and I felt a little pleased to be invited, and I participated real naive. I had a dream to export my MRP system. We had already a Unix-based MRP system.
Okay, can you explain to Jans what does MRP mean?
Yeah, MRP was those days at the beginning of ERP was material requirements planning.
Okay,
you did all your logistic activities, and with Oliver Wright, even formulas. we were able to build the foundation of ERP was MRP, Material Requirements Planning. Later on, we moved to MRP2. That was more the complete logistics. And then Gartner called it later on ERP Enterprise. Although, funny, it never became Enterprise. It's nonsense. Because today, in an enterprise, you have many of those systems. It's maybe entity resource planning, but it's joking. Coming in India, I was so amazed. I met first of the companies who were before the Wipros and TCSs. One was Datamatics, and the other was Party. I met these guys. And I saw and I acquired resource from them. They helped me a little in the beginning, but I saw no contribution from them. And there was the reason that I started captive outsourcing, do it myself. And it was quite unique. In the 80s already, building an ERP department, but what was the unique elements? We came not with empty hands. I moved to India with already the Baan shell, with already an MRP product. And I decided not to use India as outsourcing, where you have the elements that you do only outsourcing and no IP. No, we say that we have the architecture where you have the front end here, and don't say those people in India have nothing to say. No, I empowered the Indians because the unique element was. It was low cost, you have other currency, and high knowledge, but no experience. Now we were able to combine that with a Dutch experience, working with the Indians, although we did it with broken English those days, but knowing that broken English is the most spoken language in the world. Now, with broken English, but trustful our Indian guys and incorporate them in the Baan factory. And we moved then the core factory to India. Now, what was then the benefit? Trusting those people, we built IT in India. And people are saying today we are the first in the world who built IT in India those days. Because there was not IP, who built intellectual property in India. Now, having your intellectual property in India, then the benefit came because all the support could also be done from India. And they were better in English than our Dutch people in English. That means we have extremely cheap development capacity, high quality, Dutch experience, and also all the resources in India. Now, then later on, my dream. Yeah. And then as an entrepreneur, I should say, I translate my vision into a product for the benefit of the business operations to my customer, while you are serving also the social elements therein. Now, and often I worked with IT who did not exist. We always built things who were not yet there in the market. We were one of the first in Unix and building, say, mainframe applications in microtechnology, etc. Now, that means always disruptive and always moving to new ways. Now, and the Baan shell allows us to increase the tool factories, and at the other end, because we generate the code, and build and move step by step in an event-driven environment already. And that was quite unique, maybe one of the first who had a 3-tier event-driven environment. But then, okay, in the dream, to a certain point, I learned that new technology waves are coming. And that is the most critical part as an entrepreneur. Are you changing from an entrepreneur into a professional manager? Or are you executing more with venture capital for market cap? And as an investor? Or are you still continuing your entrepreneurial drive? And I'm more an entrepreneur. And I saw at the end of the 90s that the show was over. Internet became, because it was before the internet.
Yes.
And like today SAP, like today Oracle, and like today my old Baan product, they were not built for the internet. And that was for me a reason to start again with our second startup, Cordys.
Cordys, yes. Okay. So at its heyday, Baan was a significant company. Unfortunately, you did have to sell it. So how did it make you feel that you had to sell a company which you gave your own name to?
Yeah, that was real hard because in the beginning, even before selling, I was able to finance everything myself till already from 78 till 93. 18 years, it was long. And how could I do this? because we were leading and we were selling always our intellectual property with OEM deals. And most people were real afraid, my salespeople were afraid from that, because you sell everything you have to your competitor. But I had there, my vision was there on that moment, the dream moved in vision, that I learned that you evangelize and then your competitor is following you and you have the core elements. Now, that propelled us to the interest of Gartner and to the interest of a venture capital firm, one of the leading firms was Janet Atlantic Partners, because we did a deal in the 90s with our biggest competitor, ASK. And ASK was a leading in ERP solutions on DEC and HP native solutions, no Unix. And they failed in Unix. And they saw the opportunity to buy our intellectual property. Now, and that propelled us tremendous. And then the venture capital came. Now, and they were interested to participate in my company. Now, and then the problem comes. I saw my company as part of my family. It feels that your company is one of your children. And they attacked one of my children. Now, and I came to the conclusion in the beginning, I was so upset for that. I say, we should not do this. But then again, with lack of vision, I learned some things, because it seems that we were too small to being a worldwide leader, and even too big to stay small, because the product was already known as a worldwide component with these OEM deals. No. And then they convinced me, okay, you have to make your choice for the future. What is the future? Are you staying as a tier 1 player to bring your own intellectual property to others, and you are unknown, like in automotive, you are under the hood, you are like Bosch or Valeo, and not Mercedes?
Yes.
Or do you like to become Mercedes, but then you are too poor in money to execute on this? Now, and then we came to the conclusion, it's maybe then better to give up your authority, because why was I upset? I had 100% authority. I could execute. I have no board. I could execute everything on it. It was only me and later my brother. No, but then I learned that our mission is by far ahead of your execution. That means you have to give up your freedom. And then the crucial element was then, you are no longer dealing with incest. And what is incest? As a small company, you deal with your own resources.
Yes. And
from that moment, you deal with professionals outside. And that has propelled me also in knowledge. With the smart General Atlantic guys who came from top from IBM and top from McKinsey. And there I learned a lot on the educational part of my entrepreneurial journey. Because most times you stay too much introvert as entrepreneur.
So they basically help you to be an entrepreneur and make that very hard decision and move on.
Yeah, but to continue as an entrepreneur. Let me say, most times the entrepreneur is over when the venture capital is coming in, and then they kill everything. Now, and it was in the beginning of our infancy, and on the beginning of breaking through from 60 million we moved to, and they participate only for 30 million, they collect $1 billion. That means we were on the beginning to go from a small company to a worldwide leader, number 2 after SAP. Now, and I could never have done this when I was on my own with only the knowledge before. But with my entrepreneurial knowledge I developed already in the 20 years before, now they even participate with me with, I should say, boardroom knowledge. The knowledge from the big enterprise. And I, as being a quick learner, that's the entrepreneur, always a quick learner, I adopted also those the knowledge.
Okay, so what I hear you say, Jan, is as an entrepreneur, you organize your experience and knowledge, bring that together. So that's the entrepreneurial part, and then it makes happen. Now, I also want to move to another topic. You were a VC venture capitalist, which included WebEx. Now, in this current Corona age, where we are completely dependent on these platforms for our business, that's quite a visionary move to make, to invest in WebEx. What triggered you to do that?
Also accidental. I had a new CIO from Silicon Valley, and he was involved because we were only focused those days in ERP was only before the browser. Realize that. It was only 3-tier architectural, but no browser. And then we learned with the new CIO, there's a browser, And there were two very small companies in Silicon Valley. One was WebEx, the first SaaS company, and one was Top Tier, the first portal company. He came to me and said, "Jan, we should invest in these two companies." Okay, let's do this. I had money enough with my Baan money. And that means I was able, after the participation of this venture capital, with my private money and even after the stock exchange, to have money enough to participate in these two internet-driven companies. And this have brought me on the helm of the internet, because I have two leading companies in the internet. Top Tier was the first portal company in the world before Portal was born. And WebEx was the first software as a service company focusing on what we see today, video as a service. Now,
go ahead.
Now they came to me and said, "Jan, why should we not build WebEx as the war room for the business? And bring then everything in the browser, and you have with your tools, because it was later on, was it also with Cordys, you have end-to-end with your business process tools, end-to-end business processes as one version of the truth. If you can bring this BPM layer into the WebEx meeting, then we have the war room to execute." Now, that was a dream, but we failed because later on WebEx was sold to Cisco and it was killed. Now, I see it now today in Zoom. Zoom came out of WebEx. The guy in Zoom is started with my money, because in reality, I funded WebEx and he worked as there as an engineer in WebEx and learning the lessons. And that moved even today to Zoom. I feel proud that without my investment in WebEx, there was never a Zoom. No.
That's actually a remark I wanted to make. You can be proud of your children, like WebEx is being one, but then Zoom is one of your grandchildren almost, and look where they are today.
And indirect, of course, but it was fundamental.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you look at the current situation with the pandemic, do you have any opportunities? Do you see any opportunities in this current day and age?
Yeah. The beauty is now we all learned how to Zoom and how to do all this stuff. But the problem is what we do is only most times for entertainment. Even what we do today, we are Zooming with unstructured data and not with business data. Now, we should Zoom. Now, my dream is sit on my desk, sit on my virtual. I can have everyone now on my virtual desk with one keyboard all together and running. And that is the third layer, what we're talking over the layer of the business processes are moving into the workflow and the outbound workflow. I've seen ERP as a layer for the enterprise. Then I saw Cordys with BPM SOA as a layer for what Portner mentioned, operational excellence, to bring all the processes together, but it's only the inbound of the enterprise, it's only the data. Now we moved into what Gardner mentioned in the third layer, system of innovation, and in the third layer is the knowledge worker. And if I can delay all the related elements like case management to the knowledge worker on as late binding on the latest moment, then it is 100 times more simpler to run the business. Now, what is now the problem? There was one disturbing element. That was, let me share that for a moment. That was in 95, Netscape was born. And Netscape was the first company who came with a browser. And very soon, Andreessen and the top venture capitals moved their money. They did the same year IPO than I did my IPO. And they bypassed me. They were number one. We were number two on the IPO. And they were the first unicorn, but they make a multi-billion company very soon. 80% market share, but few years it was killed by Bill Gates, by Microsoft. Why? Because Microsoft had a monopoly of the PC, and they did not respect the browser of Netscape, and they blocked it. And they blocked it with old Office products and all the old stuff. Now, and this is a dangerous element. What we see is monopoly is blocking innovation. Now, the good stuff was the smart venture capital sold before they're blocking all their shares, the Sequoias, etc., and they reinvest in Google, in Facebook, in Amazon, etc. Now, and they brought everything to what we call the consumerization of IT, where we have today big data and Internet of Things. Amazing. That is today, we say, this mobile is 25 million times stronger than my mainframe. But now the problem. On the back end, we have still the data. And I've seen, and Baan is still alive. And we see that everyone was blocked by Y2K in the year 2000. And a million of people in India worked on fixing Y2K. And today, all the data are still in an ERP data lake. Transactional, and maybe it's the data is relational. No, but what I'm seeing now today, I'm linking this together with the third layer, with the REST API. We are adopting all those data lakes together in one element and building very strong with these tools, open source tools, and with the containerization and Kubernetes elements, this containerized services. Now, bringing this together, I think that will be the revolution in tomorrow's world.
I understand the revolution, and and what's the role of the current pandemic here? Is this an accelerator?
Yeah, because without this one, we had not the ability to change.
I understand. Okay.
Because we all are now used. We all are, although it is limited to only, I should say, unstructured data, but we can work with everyone together on every, and we made the world open. That means all the economies in Africa, etc., are available for knowledge. We are no longer dependent on Silicon Valley.
I got it. Hey, we're almost at the end of the interview, Jan, and I want to thank you for sharing so passionately your background and expertise in the international IT industry. And I want to end with a couple of questions to you. First of all, what would you say are the 3 key milestones in your life or career?
Now, if I'm looking to the 3 key milestones, then more, I should say, they have to do with the 3 layers. And what we have, this, the first was Baan company being in the first layer and ERP. Second, we became decoupled from ERP and built SOA, but it's even today obsolete. And then we moved in the third layer, the strengths, I should say, real in the system of innovation. Now, and we see now these strong APIs allows us to come in therein. Now, and in these milestones, I think the core element is that maybe I've seen that Gartner was saying one of your strong points is that you're connected to all the 3 layers. You have this more the connectivity, I should say, forming the connective tissue between the 3 layers are in tomorrow's world the most important ones, because I see Google extremely strong coming. I believe very strong in them. But the kids of Google do not yet understand the enterprise, and you need still the ERP there together. And you need the old world. Without the old world, there is no element to succeed in the new world. But you have to change it to the front end.
Okay, so if I understand you, your key milestones are aligned with your 3 key big initiatives: Baan Company, Cordys, and Vandenberg Venture at the moment.
Indeed, yeah.
Okay, great. Now, one final question. What are your biggest learning from your biggest failures, mistakes, admitting you have made some in the past?
Yeah. I spent last year a lot of time by collecting all my experience now in my autobiography. And then, you again bring all these things together, and hindsight, looking back, then you see maybe there is not so much time for success, because by success tomorrow immediately you have to continue therein, and it's even not so much joy. Success is more a responsibility, and that's the problem. And the most lessons learned is in your failures. And I have seen what should I say more. I'm so with these elements, then you have time, and even 2 times I stepped out of my business. I burned my ships. Instead of having the success of Baan in the future, building it 10 times bigger was expected. Maybe I was more stupid as an entrepreneur, being entrepreneurial driven and not investment driven, to go to the new wave. It was maybe too early. I burned my ships in Baan. Then I was too early with, and I have good money therein. I was too early. I invested money in the SOA world too early, maybe, but there I learned the most. And then I started in the third wave. Even I should say, it keeps you a little humble. if you stay a little above, because an entrepreneur is driven by ego, and it's good there to be corrected.
Okay. Well, sometimes you need that to be put in your place, I guess, in this world. So Jan, it's been such a pleasure talking to you today and share your experience and vision in, well, as a captain of industry in the IT world. So I thank you for sharing your knowledge for the brand called You. And it's always been a pleasure. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Fritz. See you later.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.